What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast episode 318. We are finally back after a long Thanksgiving weekend here in the U.S. and excited to talk about a lot of good games today. So it's going to be a great conversation. Good to be back with my boys here, back on duty after our Thanksgiving break. The lawman himself, Mr. Hoaglaw. How we doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. I am kind of on duty. I don't actually think that I've done a video on my channel until this one since Thanksgiving. So I'm happy to be here. Happy to be talking about video games.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And some good ones to talk about as well. And the Thai guy himself with, you're going a little longer and you'll go Flock of Seagulls on us, Travis. You're getting there with the hair. I like it.
What's Flock of Seagulls?
As a reference for the older audience members, but yeah, you're getting there.
Yeah, it's probably time for a haircut for yours truly. You know, I didn't have time to cut my hair during the holiday season when I was playing 100 hours of Path of Exile 2 uninterrupted. So
that was a grind. But what happens if, like, when you're like 60 hours in, if they delete all your skills? Could that help at all?
That did happen to me. It made it way worse. It's funny. It's like it was right when I got to the end game and I was like so ready. I was like, yes, we're at the end game. We just played through the campaign twice. We're going. I think I had played like 70 or 80 hours. And then they deleted all of my skill gems, support gems, and my main weapon, because my main weapon also granted me a skill gem. And if you had a weapon, it deleted it. And that stopped me dead in my tracks. Like I was just like, basically can't engage with the end game. So I had to go back and grind some other stuff. And it was very annoying.
I don't know what you're talking about, Travis. This is all fiction, right? I read your comments. I read through the Reddit about your article, and they said, no way could this guy have that kind of review commentary when the game's only been out 24 hours.
Right.
100% true.
That's
he made it all up.
Yeah. No, I do have delusions of grandeur when I just hallucinate all these games I'm playing. Yeah, no, people don't know how the game works. But they do know how to send you a message telling you to kill yourself. That's what I've learned about the internet. So
very competent at that.
Yeah,
I'm very sorry about that. You are not alone there. I have certainly received those messages. I don't know whether Ains has.
Only a few, not as many, but you get them once in a while. Yeah. In fact, well, no, I'm not even going to say it because it's so bad. I'm not even going to say it on the show. But I got one that was especially egregious.
Okay, interesting. Well, I have not been doxxed yet. I know that's the next step, like getting swatted. I do have coworkers who've gotten swatted, and that doesn't sound very fun. I'm sure that'll happen to me at some point. But yeah, this week
I thought the ESA doxed you. No.
Oh, they did dox me.
Well,
yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I did get physical mail from a person who, that's true. So I just haven't been swatted yet then. That's the last bastion for me.
I do have your address, so just ping me in DM so we can sort this out.
Cool. That sounds good. This week was really special for me, which is I received my first kill yourself message over LinkedIn. And it really... It kind of hits different when the kill yourself message comes with a complete work history. I found that's it kind of gives it more credibility because you're like, okay, when I can see where he went to university and I kind of understand like how his worldview got here, and also he wants me to kill myself, and it's pretty cool. So that was my week.
Yeah. I got to tell you, that's scarier. That's a complete psycho that's sending you those messages through their LinkedIn.
That is a new one, I will say, because you could. I mean, I could see their employer and stuff. I mean, I couldn't really do anything about it. This full disclosure, this person is not located in English-speaking countries, so I don't know if I could even, rat on them. Not that I would. I mostly just found it funny, to be honest with you, which is how I react to all this stuff. By the way, I do not care what you think about my review. I promise.
You have to roll with
over it,
and I assume that Travis has to roll with more than most because IGN reviewer is a endangered.
They get quite a few views. Yeah.
We're not the most loved people in the internet.
Well, you're not real people. I don't know if you knew that.
That's true. I am a vermin, as I've been told. So I will talk about my Path of Exile 2 review during the show, and I will answer many questions and explain the 8, which hopefully the review did, but I'll talk about it here.
You say it like people read it.
So
that's true. I did see the Asmongold video where he like criticizes my review with his facial expressions, and literally him going to my reviews, just scrolling down to the bottom and looking at the score. No context. He doesn't see the part where like all my equipment got deleted or any of that stuff. But yeah, let's do it, man.
We don't need to talk about him. That's a waste of time.
I will say he's very entertaining. I don't know anything about the guy, but he does seem to be like a shock jockey is kind of how I view him.
He's very popular. And I was talking to Ains about this in the pre-show, but it's strange to me still as a seasoned gamer, as it were, that you can basically just be popular for reasons that don't have anything to do with your acumen or ability to critique. And then you're on all of the news sites and on all of my like browser opening screens. And it's like, I don't know who this person is from Adam, but he's clearly popular. So there you go.
Yeah, I think he just probably is entertaining to watch, and that goes a long way with people. But I will say the video of him looking at my review scores did make me laugh. Like I thought it was funny. I just, I was also like, but you should read the review, like if you're actually gonna disagree with it. Also, it's important to know that when everybody was reacting to this, none of them had played the game. They were just assuming it was going to be like a 10 out of 10. Like none of them have played it. And I was just like, just play the game. If you disagree with the loot drops, like play it and tell me that you.
To be extra clear, the game's not out. It's early access. Travis and I have talked about this a lot.
Well, Travis's position on this is when they take your $30, it's out for purposes of discussion, right?
Yeah, but you review the things about it. Like if you ask the player who says the game isn't out yet, they would say, oh, well, it's not out yet, and therefore you're supposed to look past all of its flaws. My view is if the game isn't out yet, I review the version I got today, and the version we got today makes you play for the first 3 acts 3 times in a row. So that is a ding against it, right? I think normal players look past that and go, well, it's not finished. And I say, well, they're charging you money. One of the versions of this game is like $350. And I think that you should be able to review the version that we got today.
Now, if I was pricing it correctly on the store that I was looking at, the prices are matched up as best I can tell with like the amount of points they give you, presumably for microtransactions. I don't have this game yet.
It's points and cosmetics. Yeah. I mean, grinding gear, we've talked about this, right? Path of Exile is 100% funded by supporters and buying microtransactions. It's a free to play game, generally speaking. And you can't buy power, which is great, right? You just buy cosmetics, but they have a ton of stuff you can buy, right? That's how they fund the studio. So to launch Path of Exile 2, it's $30 for just a key to play it in early access. But to Travis's point, they also have packages where if you want to get like the cool pet and flashy stuff and a whole bunch of points to spend, you can spend a lot they people and there are people that do.
But it's noteworthy that the $30 to get in the door still comes with 300 points. Right, like that.
They give you $30 in points when you do that. Yes,
you can read it either way. So I haven't gotten this yet. I don't know whether I will. We were talking in the pre-show about whether I should because I don't love early access processes, and I don't love kind of the notion of repeating the game a couple of times. Now, Travis, why do they make you do that? You said 3 times, twice. I don't know how many.
So there's 6 acts in the game, and
if you would have read my preview, you would have known.
Yeah, there's 6 acts in the game, and because. Yeah, because they wanted to focus on the end game more than the campaign, which is probably the smart choice because players really care about the end game. So they, instead of finishing the campaign, they focused on the end game. And so in order to get to the level where you can engage with the end game, they make you play through the first half of the campaign twice in a row. So you beat the campaign, the first half of it, and then when you get to the end dialogue, it just teleports you right back to the beginning of the game and says go again. And then when you go through it the second time, then it puts you into the proper end game because you're now end game level. My critique of this was that the second playthrough is really a bit of a slog. It goes a lot faster because you're stronger, but like you're watching the same dialogue, the same cutscenes, you're going fighting the same bosses. You're like, all right, dude, I get it. And then you finally get to the boss or to the end game, and you're like, thank God that's over. But now I kind of hate the experience, especially if you're marathoning it. And so what I would have liked to see them is just like auto level or
I don't understand why they don't just goose you with points and levels.
Yeah, they could have done something like that. They could have just granted you however many levels to get you to 65. That doesn't solve the loot problem, but I would argue you could figure out the loot problem as you go later on.
They have other loot problems.
They have other loot problems. We'll talk about that. But it is a I get why they did it. Like mechanically, but I feel like there was a better solution that didn't waste like an additional 15-20 hours of the player time to play through it again. And it made it pretty tough on some of the reviewers. Like, I'm a no lifer, but like Ames, for example, he has a family, and this review period was during like American Thanksgiving, and like it
was tough.
There was no way he was getting through the campaign twice in a row. He just wasn't going to do it, right? And so, how far did you get?
Close.
I was
close. I got to act 2 in the cruel mode, and the only reason I stopped, I had more time. The only reason I stopped is because our skills got deleted.
Yeah,
and I basically told Travis, I was like, it's not worth it for me to rebuild completely again, because
I had a sunk cost fallacy. I was like, all right, I'm already 80 hours in. If I don't finish the review now, I have to start a new character when it comes out and then play all of it over. So I was just like, screw it, let's just go in. And so I played like another 30 hours, and I think I ended up at like 110 hours by the time I was done. And I got to experience like maybe 30-25 hours of the end game and got pretty far into that. And it's a great game. Like, even in early access with my complaints about it, like, it has an unfinished campaign. It has bugs because they're updating it that probably will screw people over. Like, it deleted my stuff. You'll get to points in the skill tree that are dead ends where you invested like a skill point in something, and then when you get to the support gems, you're like, ah, shit, they didn't make the support skills for this, so I can't really use it, right? And so you just kind of reach like a dead end in the maze of build crafting, which is really weird. It has all those issues, and yet, even when they deleted all my stuff, I was still like, dude, I love this game. I'm just going to like regrind it and play it again. And so, despite my critiques of it, like, the combat is super, super good in that game. The build crafting is freaking amazing. Like, it's so nerdy and high involvement that like tickles a very like nerdy Excel spreadsheet part of my brain. Really, really just a cool experience. And so I think an 8 out of 10 is a compliment considering the state it's in, right, as an unfinished product. And I have no doubt that when it is finished, it's going to be a 9 or even a 10. Like, there's no doubt in my mind about that. It's such a good game as it is today. But yeah, does it have all of the usual like early access jank and kind of like very clearly unfinished product stuff? Yeah. And if you don't like that stuff, you're probably going to bristle at that in this game because it does have a lot of that. And so if you're not like a super ARPG hardcore person or somebody who typically likes EA games, early access games, you're probably going to want to wait on this one. And I don't know if that there's a disadvantage of waiting. Like, it's going to be a great game when it comes out.
Usually I only get into early access when I think it'll be more expensive later, but if I understand it correctly, it'll be free to play when it comes out, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah, it's always been free to play. Yeah. And by the way, we literally somehow transitioned from intro directly into Path of Exile.
Sorry about that. We're going.
You guys wanted to talk about Path of Exile. I want to hear about Path of Exile.
I do.
It's great.
Yeah.
So, Travis or Ains, as a Diablo 4 player, I've played several hundred hours of Diablo 4, really enjoyed that game, but fell off it. What makes Path of Exile 2 different? You've said it's good. But why is it good?
So the thing that I think that separates it for me is that the combat is more action than RPG. Like, you're actually doing, when you enter a boss fight in Diablo, I feel like a lot of times you're kind of not changing your strategy. You're maybe moving a little bit more, but you're basically just hitting all the combos you normally do and killing the boss. And this one, it's more like an action game where you have to like learn attack patterns and dodge, and it's got a little bit of like a bullet hell element, and it's a lot more engaging gameplay than Diablo. Like, I've mentioned on this podcast how sometimes I fall asleep during Diablo, and I don't consider that a diss. It's more just like the game is very like meditative and chill. This is not that chill of a game. Like, whether it's the build crafting is significantly less chill. Like, you have to navigate 1,500 nodes on each skill tree, and there's like 5 skill trees to worry about. It's very sweaty, and then the combat is also significantly more sweaty. You're like, biting your nails about like this boss that does an attack where they spin in a circle and shoot lasers everywhere, and if you get hit by it, you're toast, right? Like, there's stuff like that you just have to worry about. And so I find that experience, like, I did not fall asleep during Path of Exile. I think it's much harder to, because it is a much more tense game. And so if you're like me and you really enjoy that, like, from a pure gameplay perspective, I think Path of Exile is more my speed. I played a ton of the original. That game is also more my speed. And this game is such a leap forward for the Path of Exile series. It still is behind the curve in Diablo in some areas, notably its presentation, its music, its visuals are you're just not as good as a AAA game like Diablo. But in a lot of other ways, it beats Diablo pretty handily. Certainly in the end game, which right now it's early access, and the end game already feels like it's got a lot of meat on it. So for me, it's mostly gameplay and build crafting. It just is a very different experience and is much more like a Travis experience for me. So Ains, I'm not sure if you kind of have a similar.
Yeah, I said when we were just talking before we started that if you think of action RPG, right, Diablo 4 leans into the action, Path of Exile leans into the RPG. It's a deeper game than Diablo 4, to Travis's point, the build crafting. And this is true of the original as well, right? The build crafting is has a lot more depth with your skill gems. And in this one, you have skill gems, support gems, buff gems, and then you have charms. And then you obviously have the gigantic passive skill tree. And the beauty of the passive skill tree, because I think it was Alex in the chat saying that they need to fix the skill tree. And I'm like, I don't think you understand what they're going for. And I don't mean that in a sarcastic sense, but the Path of Exile community at its core adores the depth of this game, because what it allows you to do is that you have this gigantic passive skill tree, which can be intimidating, right, to some people who don't get into the depth of these games.
I know the first one was.
Yeah, and how it works, right, is that all of the classes are on the same skill tree, right? They just start in different locations, and the skills that are directly around where you start are related directly to what you would normally build with that class, right? So if you're a ranger, it's like attack speed, evasion, right? That type of stuff with your bow, that type of thing. But then you basically choose any path you want to go. And the beauty of it is you can actually cross into areas that not built for that class at all. And you can just build like whatever hybrid character you want. And you can use any skill, any loot, and just really kind of experiment with it. And that's what players have done. That's why people have like thousands and thousands, if not tens of thousands of hours in Path of Exile. And why the kind of what I would call hardcore, for lack of a better word, but the hardcore ARPG community is really big. Some of them really big on Path of Exile over Diablo for that reason. Diablo is a much more streamlined experience. And to Travis's point, I think Diablo does some things better. I love Diablo 4. We all know this. But Path of Exile also does some things better. And I've always said, honestly, my favorite ARPG would be if you just took the two and mashed them together somehow, because they both do some things better than the other. It is a different experience, though. It is sweaty. It's a good word. There are bosses that even me and Travis, I won't speak for you, but Hogue, we like harder games. And there's bosses where I have no potions left. I have no health, and I'm literally like, trying to beat them. I got beat them, and it feels like souls. Yeah, so did I. You'll die for sure.
Yeah, you'll die for sure. And then also,
I've beaten bosses where like my hands are shaking. Yeah.
There's also stuff like something I never really encounter in Diablo is like you face a boss and of course it forces you to question or alter your build. Like that's pretty normal in Path of Exile. Like
very normal.
You get to a boss fight and you're just like, dude, this guy's killing me in one shot. Okay, what type of damage is he doing? Oh, he's doing flame damage. My fire resistance is kind of low. I'm just gonna like reassign some skill points and like up my fire resistance. And like getting to that point where you have to question your build or just change it for one boss fight and then change it back, which sometimes is like advisable, is like such a novel experience that I think only Path of Exile gets you to. I think this actually sits in terms of action sweatiness in between Diablo, which I would put on the casual side, and No Rest for the Wicked, which I would put on like the hardcore side, like almost kind of like trying to align itself with like a Souls-like experience. I don't think Path of Exile gets to that level, but it's like very much in between those two. It's like a more action focused game than I think the Diablo is.
I was going to ask you about Wicked because I like the graphic style of that. It's weird. And Path of Exile 2, I think the trailers that I saw are pretty impressive, more impressive than I thought they would be, but it does feel like Diablo 4, but a little bit less.
Yep. Yeah. In terms of presentation, I would say it really does not try a lot new. And I think maybe that's because they know they're a smaller studio and they're just not going to be able to compete with like a AAA studio. But I think my impression of like all the graphics and the music and all that was like, it's fine. It's unoffensive.
It's good. I wouldn't put it down. I mean, Diablo 4 is a high bar.
I know. But if you're comparing it with Diablo, you're going to be disappointed. But like it's not at all any point where you're like, oh, that kind of looks ugly. Like it looks good. It looks really good. I give it a 7 out of 10 in the like graphics department. You know,
it looks better than I thought it would in the trailers. So I mean, I think that's good for it. It just I don't love this other thing, but a little bit worse as a style. Yeah. I like the Wicked approach if we're going to do something completely weird and different.
Well, and what Grinding Gear has gone for, and they've been clear about this, right, is they like the darker kind of aspects of the ARPG. Their original goal years ago was to go after Diablo 2, right, which is known as the kind of darker, more evil theme. And you see that across the game, and they stick with that in part 2.
Yeah. They also, in terms of the storyline, they have like it's like this weird, like, does every ARPG have to have this kind of story type of thing where it's like, okay, there's like gods that are maybe posing as mortals, and there's like evil abominations that are going to take over the world that you have to stop. And I'm just like, this is every ARPG. Like, this is No Rest for the Wicked. This is Diablo, like every campaign. It's just such a weird, like, why does every ARPG have to have this storyline? Which is why I get excited when I see RPGs that don't, like Superfuse, a game I've been previewing for a while that's still not out. Which is
I liked Titan Quest back in the day. That was
there. You go. Yeah, that's
Titan
a really
Quest
good.
2 is coming to console next year, right?
That's a good shout. But I do think that there's some parts where you're like, okay, they're like so obviously like doing the Diablo thing, but they're making it very in terms of gameplay and loot and the entire design of the RPG, it's like totally different. Could not be more different. But like there's this weird thing where like when you're watching the game and the story, you're kind of like, this could be like a Diablo story, like or a No Rest for the Wicked story. It's kind of all the same stuff, which I just find really, really odd that the genre is like copying itself.
It's funny that you said that this game doesn't have a complete campaign, because in some ways in my head, I don't think of Diablo 4 as a complete campaign. I know it had an ending. I know it had credits. I know it had the Vessel of Hatred, but like my entire brain state with Diablo 4 is like still to be continued, still pending.
It's still going.
Yeah, that's fair. That is a very fair thing to say, but I think when you play through Act 1 through 3, you'll see how incomplete a campaign can feel, because it is very abrupt. It's like there's no conclusion at all. It's like up, and then you're back at the beginning, or you finish it, and then on the second playthrough, you're like, okay, I'm gonna get more of the story, and they give you like 3 seconds more, and then they just throw you in the end game. So they do give you a little bit more ains, which I think you'll see when you get to it. But like it's not enough to like Diablo, you get an arc. This one you don't even really get like an arc. You get like
no, and the end of Act 3, right? So if you played a lot of Path of Exile 1 and the expansions through the years, it takes a turn. Like it goes places you don't expect it to.
It does.
And Act 3 in this game, it kind of does the similar. Before you know it, you're like, where the hell am I now? What's going on? And then when you beat the Act 3 boss, as Travis said, you beat the boss, you go through a portal, and you're at the start of the game again. Like where you first start your character. And it's like, oh, that's okay. Cool.
Yeah. And if you're like me and make a mistake and you don't do the Temple of Chaos first, and then you just have to wait until your second playthrough, I was so annoyed. And then that quest shows up on the UI the entire second playthrough. It's like, go beat the temple. I'm like, I can't. It's in Act 3. I have to get back there. Damn it. So there are some things in this game, like because it's early access and very, very much incomplete. You're just gonna like be like, all right, yeah, like, I get it. Like it's not done yet, but it is sort of it's got some rough edges for sure.
Yeah, because you're grading what's in front of you, but you know that the final product is not going to have you repeat 1 through 3.
Correct. Yeah, there's some stuff where it's like I have to grade the game right now. I think a lot of the people that are mad at my review are mad because they know that the game is going to be better than it is in its current state, and I agree. I have no doubt that this is. Look, I like Path of Exile more than I like Diablo games typically. And I think Path of Exile 2, just looking at it where it is right now in its pre 1.0 state, I think it's going to be, for me, a much better game than Diablo 4. That's my current opinion. But I'm reviewing the game I'm playing today. And the game I'm playing today has coming soon signs and abilities. It has big bugs that screw you out of tens of hours of gameplay and make you regrind. It's got a campaign that you have to play through twice, which does not feel good. And then we haven't talked about the loot, which I think the loot has always been the thing Diablo has done better than Path of Exile. Just feels
that's going to get you more death threats there.
I know. But it's how I feel. And I feel like Path of Exile 2 is sort of an improvement, but it still has big, kind of things that just don't feel good when you're going through the game and you're not getting loot drops that really matter to you for like tens of hours at a time. So
yeah. So Travis and I talked
about loot. Oh, I'm sorry, Ains, you go.
No, I was just going to say that Travis and I talked about this a lot in DMs, right, while playing. And yeah, the loot structure is the same as PoE1, right? And it's more, so if you play a lot of Diablo where you're constantly getting new loot and upgrading, right? Path of Exile is much more about getting a piece of loot and you actually upgrade the loot itself, right? Because they have the whole orb system and it's more about optimization and skill building than it is like Diablo where you're constantly changing loot. But I think to Travis's point, they've streamlined it some. You're not looking for sockets on the loot like you were in PoE1, which I love, by the way, because I never thought that was a great system. But it is still not generous enough, either with the orbs you need or the loot itself. Like you can go through, I wrote in my review, it feels weird to kill thousands and thousands of monsters, open hundreds of chests, because chests are everywhere, right? And then to get the best piece of loot from like the blacksmith in town because I bought it. You know what I mean? That doesn't feel good. That's not rewarding. And I really wish. So what I've seen so far since it launched officially on Friday is that the loot does seem to be better. Me and Bomber have already found a couple uniques, Travis, like early on.
Really?
Getting more yellows. Yeah. So it is a little better, but it's still one of the biggest things. And Travis, you can comment, of course, is you find a lot of loot that's not for your class.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, Diablo made that mistake in Diablo 3 when they launched, and they quickly realized like people don't want to find loot that they can't use. Yeah. And it's like, why are we still doing this in Path of Exile 2? It just, they need to optimize that more. I
played for 60 hours before I saw unique, and then it was a bow that I couldn't really use for my mage class. And so it was like, all right, well, that sucks. But yeah, I think, just the feeling of like, I killed this big important act boss and I got like a couple magic items, which is like low level rarity, right? Like, okay, I got like 2 magic items and some gold. It's just like, all right, man, come on, just give me something, right? And then the idea that like just the whole cycle of loot, like you would think that if you're level 40 and you're using a level 20 item, there would be a huge disadvantage. There is a disadvantage, but in my experience, it wasn't big enough for me to put on a blue that was level 40, right? If I found a rare item, I would never go back to a magic item, even if it was 20 levels below me. And so it kind of locks you in the system of like, well, I don't really want to upgrade unless it's really good enough. And like, just the process of like upgrading your loot and turning it out is not good. Now, I know that kind of the point of Path of Exile is that if you find a bow on your mage, you can use the bow on your mage, right? Like it's kind of tries to do like a cross progression thing. But like, if you look at the stats and the skill trees and what's available to your character, using a bow on your character is not practical in the pre-end game, right? And so as you're grinding, just the whole progression system of getting to end game doesn't really make sense. And I think there's a group of people in Path of Exile that are so hardcore that they'll balk at the idea of you being offended by getting a unique bow on your mage class, because they'll be like, well, there's this crazy build you can do where bows make sense. And I'm like, yeah, but like most people don't play that pre-end game. You're probably not going to want that. The thing I think I may disagree with you on is the skill and support gems. I felt like were pretty generous, and I felt like I was constantly having enough of those to have a couple in my vault.
No, I agree with you.
Oh, okay.
They're even more generous since launch. I have literally tons in my stash right now I can't even use.
I thought I heard you say that like you thought the skills were not as friendly.
He said something about orbs, but I don't know.
No.
I guess that's what I
thought. The fact that you don't have to pick up loot with sockets on it like you did in PoE1.
Oh, yeah.
Skill gems into sockets. I never really liked that system. I like it better in Path of Exile.
Yeah. I will say the number of loot you find that has sockets in it for not gems. No, they are. No, they're not gems. What are they? I can't remember what they're called.
I surely don't know.
Sorry, I was typing a comment. I didn't listen.
Like the armor and weapons that have a socket in it. What's the item?
They still have sockets, but it's more traditional. So now you put in the
I can't remember the thing you put in it. That's what I'm forgetting the term for. Anyway, it's not gems. Gems go in your skill tree, your passive tree. But yeah, anyway, the amount of items that you find with those, I feel like is pretty low, at least on my playthrough, playing 100+ hours until you get to the end game. But the problem with that is like, as you're leveling up through the end game or pre-end game, the items with sockets in it are kind of really important because you take those to a dismantling station, and then it gives you a resource that helps you improve your loot manually. And if you don't have access to that, it kind of makes the loot game feel even worse. And Ames is absolutely right. Like, most of the good stuff I got for my build, I bought from a vendor. The vendors swap out their inventory every time you level up. And so every time I leveled up, I like ran back to town. I was like,
yep,
any good loot? And that's how I got all my good loot. And then like while I was out in the world, I was just getting trash to sell. And so I just feel like I don't understand how it isn't a valid criticism that like it should feel better, not just during the end game, because you do get better loot in the high end game, and you also gain more abilities to kind of craft your own loot, which is really cool. But like, you're playing the game for 80 hours and you don't find a single unique you can use for your class or any sort of like powerful item. And that just doesn't feel super good as you're going through the game. I think that's a valid criticism. I get that people are happy with the end game experience, and the loot game is a lot better there from my experience with it. But I just think overall, like, there's going to be a bunch of players that are not swapping out their loot for like tens of hours at a time. And that probably should not be the case, especially anyway, I can complain more about it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, in my review, I wrote at level 50, I had level 11 gloves on, and level like 14 boots. And it's like, that just shouldn't be the case. It just shouldn't be the case, period.
Yeah.
So by the way, Silkenit, shout out to Silkenit, said the runes. Runes are the things that go in the
runes.
sockets
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm seeing the page in my menu, my stash that I put all my runes in. Yeah. There we go. Cool.
Well, and it gets confusing because if you play a lot of Diablo, runes are different in Diablo. I mean, they go in your loot in Diablo 4 now, but
they kind of do. Similar.
But anyway, no, Travis and I generally see eye to eye. I gave it an 8 as well, so I'm just lucky that we don't have the same audience of death threats. I'll send any death threats your way, Travis, so you can deal with those.
To be clear, I did not get death threats on this one. Death threats for me are pretty rare. And there's a whole process for them at IGN because it's unfortunately not an unusual circumstance. What I'm receiving is unfriendly advice to kill myself, which is different, but kind of on the same vibe. So be clear.
All right.
Yeah, no, he's right. Kill yourself and death threats are different categories of message.
One is more severe. One is a guy just, hoping that you'll do his work for them, but they're different. Yeah.
Naturally, Travis, in the comments now we get that 8 is generous, so you can't win. You can't win.
Yeah, you can't win. Like, look, I think the game is an 8, and if you saw my experience, especially like getting all my stuff deleted, you'd be like, how could you give that an 8, right? Like, there's some people on that side who don't get it, and then everyone else, like the game's most hardcore fans, or if you look on the Reddit thread that Hogue was looking at, like you'll see that people think an 8 is basically like a slap in the face, or like,
well, what's funny is listening to you, Travis, listening to you, I hear you wanting to give it a higher score and coming out as an 8 because you had some of these negative experiences and you don't like the doubling up.
Yeah. Correct. I want to give this game a 9 or a 10. And I have no doubt that in the 1.0, I will be able to do that. But given the state of the game, you have to leave some overhead for like the next score, right? If it was a 10 right now, that would be what is it when it's 1.0? You know what I mean? Like, it's not a finished game. And I think people are forgetting that. I think people see this as the launch and they don't understand that, like, I'm reviewing it from the perspective of like, you're paying for a game and it's not done. And that
there does appear to be a certain amount of emotionality wrapped up in this game versus Diablo in particular. Like, I'm not a member of those groups. I am not one that is emotionally attached to the end game experience. There are lots of people that are, or the skill trees. Yeah, it would seem like one of the reasons I was finding these things about Travis's review was I wanted to know the differences between my Diablo 4 experience and Path of Exile. Don't search for like Path of Exile 2 versus Diablo 4 or like thoughts on those topics, because people are out there very strongly opinionated on that score. And I'm glad I can have these conversations with you and Travis and you, Ains, but not everybody can. And so an 8 looks like you're overselling in some ways, and it looks like you are underselling like the war against Diablo 4.
Yeah. So that there is a type to that where there's like people jockeying for these two games. There's some people that really like Diablo and really love Path of Exile. I find myself in the very strange position of loving both of these games, but not really comparing them in my mind because they are so fundamentally different, even though they borrow a lot from each other. Like, I go to Diablo for a very different experience than Path of Exile. I go to Diablo because it's like very streamlined and easy, and it doesn't tickle that Excel spreadsheet part of my brain as much. It can a little bit, right? And the end game is a very different, like almost hypnotic experience of like, oh, well, I'm just going to run these like, nightmare dungeons and like do this thing. And like, it's comfort food. Path of Exile I go to for like a more involved experience. And it kind of speaks to an entire different part of my gaming personality. Yeah. My point is that you can love both of those. Like I gave Diablo 4 at launch a 9 out of 10 because it does a lot of the stuff that I want from a Diablo game super well. Now, if I'm comparing it as against the part of my brain that loves Path of Exile, it's a terrible Path of Exile game. It doesn't do any of that stuff. It doesn't approach the kind of level of end game involvement that Path of Exile 2 does. But they're just different in my brain. I don't view them as like being competitive, and I don't think people understand that review scores are not always comparative in that way. Like when I give Diablo a 9, I'm not looking at other scores and going like, well, what else is a 9? I'm reading the description of what a 9 means and seeing if that fits that description for me. And I think Diablo 4 is an amazing game. It was also a finished game at launch. It did not do early access. And I think Path of Exile 2 is great, not yet amazing, but I know it's going to be amazing. But for me, you don't really get a 9 out of 10 if like you delete all of my stuff partway through because of a bug. I think people are going to get hit with bugs, and I think people are going to be mad, but they have to keep in mind it's an early access game. And that's kind of what I'm trying to warn them about with my review is like, yeah, it's unfinished. It's an 8 out of 10, but an 8 out of 10 for an unfinished game is a compliment for me. I'm a harsh reviewer, right? Like that's what people convince me or say about me. Right. And so an 8 out of 10 is a compliment considering the stuff that I had. I still wanted to play the game even despite the bugs, despite the monotony of grinding through the campaign twice, all that stuff. So this is a game I love.
For the record, I wouldn't describe you as a harsh reviewer. I think you are a critic that critiques. But I find that often reading your reviews, talking to you in person, that you find reasons when they're appropriate to overcome those criticisms, that you're not just sitting there negging all these things as much as possible.
What my rule for reviewing is, even if I really hate a game, I try to find one thing that I love about it and talk about it in the review. And I think that helps color my perspective a little bit toward like remembering to find the stuff that like the reason I'm still reviewing games, right? I want to find that in every game, even when I am playing a game that I don't like. And the other thing that I want the community to know, anybody who is a Path of Exile fan may be watching this because they want me to kill myself. Like, who's not offended by my review? Path of Exile developers at Grinding Gear Games, because I talked to them after my review and they were like, your review's super fair. We're thrilled with it. We love that you played so much of it, yada, yada. Like I had good conversations with the people at Grinding Gear Games. They're not mad. They didn't tell me to kill myself. They weren't saying, well, why did you give Diablo a 9? I think that they were like, look, our game's not finished. An 8 out of 10 is pretty darn good. And I think they're going to be shooting for that 10 out of 10. I think they might get it with the 1.0, and I will be happy to give it if I'm given the option and if I think that it meets that bar when I review it again. But
all right, now you've gone too far. I refuse to believe you're happy about giving out a 10. I know you love Asgard's Wrath too, but you've been very careful with your 10s.
I have only given 1 10 at IGN. I'm not saying that it's a sure thing. They would really have to do a lot. People know my bar for a 10 is it has to fundamentally drive the industry forward in some significant way. That is a very hard bar to meet, especially for a sequel of an ARPG. But I see a version of Path of Exile 2 that could meet that bar. And if it gets there, I will be happy to give it. But I'm not going to play with like soft gloves just because I want the game to succeed. I am always rooting for games, but when I put my reviewer hat on, I enter the mode of like, all right, well, does it meet that bar? Do I feel like it's actually there? So I hope it is. I'm rooting for it though. I really love this game and I love the team that's making it. And I have nothing to say about the community that is a part of it because
there's a couple things there. So to Hoag's earlier point, well, like 10 minutes ago now, but to his earlier point, Path of Exile 2, the community behind Path of Exile began as an anti-Diablo community. It was for people who were disappointed with the direction that Diablo went with Diablo 3, which there were a lot of after Diablo 2.
I don't love 3.
And Path of Exile filled that gap. And over the past 13 years since that game released, that community, Grinding Gear Games, to their credit, have built a very strong community for Path of Exile. But there's a lot of that community. I won't say a lot. There's a subsection of that community, right? There's some percentage that really do kind of take it to the negative level of because I'm a Path of Exile fan, I have to hate Diablo. And that's really stupid, right? They're both great games and you can love them both. And to Travis's point, they're very different games. And I love them for the same reasons Travis said. I've played both of them for thousands of hours. I adore them, but they're very different. And that's what we were cautioning you against before the show, Hogue, is like, I'm not sure if this is the type of loot-based ARPG for you based on what we know about you, but it'd be cool if you did get into it, right? But I also agree.
I might well give it a try, but I do think just hearing your descriptions, and video games art is subjective and it's a taste thing. It's just like food, right? You can have a really great burger, you can have a really great pizza. Those are different tastes, and it's kind of hard to compare those things.
Yeah,
it sounds to me like I do prefer the more meditative, streamlined approach in Diablo 4, and then you combine that with what I consider to be pretty much top of class kind of graphical presentation. It's probably not going to work as well for me in a Path of Exile format, but I am interested in it, and I'm always interested in new and different games and novelty there. So if it takes a Diablo kind of game and makes something new out of it, that does excite me. So I'll probably give it a try.
It really is great, especially if you love to just kind of get in there and really think about how you can create your own character and own build and kind of experiment. That's what it's there for, and people really love that aspect of it. So yeah, it's good. It's
I love that you can spend like something I don't think you can really do in Diablo is spend like 2 hours of gameplay without leaving your menus. And you can do that in Path of Exile pretty easily.
If you want to. Yeah, if you want to.
I certainly did, like on accident. I was like, let me just look at this little passive skill tree real quick and kind of see where it synergizes with my skill gems. And then I was like, oh, it's 1 a.m. Like I need to actually start playing the game and get back to the campaign because you can just lose time. But yeah, man, great game. Well, so excited about it.
Yeah, and I think so. Bomber and I were talking about this last night. Is one of the other things, not to continue to stay on PoE forever here, but one of the other things it does really well in comparison to Diablo 4 specifically. And again, we're back to comparing them. But as you know, Diablo 4 is an open world game. You can just kind of travel around and do whatever. What Path of Exile 2 does is very similar to PoE 1, which is it has your acts and it has your act map, and then you go to regions right around that act. But because it's broken up into chunks like that, and each little area within an act usually has like a side boss or something to discover, little side quests and things to do, it is a very addicting loop. And there's so many times where I'm playing and it's like, damn, I could just knock that out real quick, right? And then you spend another 20 minutes and then you do that and you're like, oh, damn, I got that passive. Now I can go do that real quick. And it just keeps you going. You know what I mean? It strings you along really, really well. So it is a very addicting game. And to be clear, both for ultra clear from what Travis and I both said about the campaign and some of the shortcomings at the moment, there's still a massive amount of content here, especially considering for your early access kind of not moniker. So
and
anyway,
that's without Ains having seen the end game. Like the end game is
seen. Well, remember, seen it. Crazy. I got demoed it in the preview.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so you saw it. But yeah, like as somebody who put like a lot of time into it, like dude, you could put like 500 hours into the end.
People are going to put a lot of time into it.
Yeah, like it's so crazy. And the map, I actually think so. The Atlas, not a new idea. It's from Path of Exile 1, but like the Atlas endgame map and like exploring it kind of is like Diablo meets Super Mario World. Like you're kind of walking around the map and clicking on nodes and finding bosses and finding like merchants, and it has like a very like RPG map you're traveling through, and then each node is like its own procedurally generated level. It's such a good idea, and the version in this game is better than the original, even in early access. And I could gush about the end game. The end game is super cool.
Very cool. The last thing I'll say, just to close this out, just for awareness for anyone who's thinking about that. Well, two things. Cheese asked if it plays well on console. Yes, it does. I played it on console when I was out in LA, and
you played with controller, right?
I only play with controller. Yes.
Okay, yeah, I did WASD, and I will say the WASD movement is such a boon, absolutely necessary in this game where you have like dodging and timing and movement is like really important. So,
well, presumably that kind of movement would exactly match with a controller joystick kind of functionality,
correct.
Right?
Yeah, I have not touched a controller version of it, but yeah, I played it on mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, controller plays better in PoE2 than it did in the original. It's more optimized and it plays really well on console. But the one thing I wanted to warn about, just for awareness, is when we were out there in LA, he told us that most likely, like 90% likely, that at the end of early access, when they're ready to go to 1.0, your characters will be wiped. So if you have 500 hours into your character in early access, once it goes to 1.0, you're starting over.
I got to this whole conversation and thought, okay, maybe I'll try this out. And that one piece of news, piece of news is like, I don't know.
That's why I wanted to bring it up, because I know that that's going to rub some people the wrong way. And I think they look at it as they have their leagues and they have their other stuff they do, and they don't want people who come into the game in 1.0 have these other people in the game that are, level 100.
It's hard for me with the games that are focused on endgame and competitiveness like that, because I literally don't care. So like whatever you have to do on that score is just going to be an affront to me. So yeah.
I don't care about it in these games either. I'm not one of those players. I play for myself, but I'm just letting everyone know.
As somebody who's already had a 100+ hour character deleted, I'm probably not going to be playing this game until the next time they make me review it, which will hopefully be during 1.0. So I'm excited to play it again and see what changed. But yeah, I'm not gonna sink too much time into this after.
Now they could change their mind.
They could.
That's when we were sitting there with them in LA. That's what he said. So
I don't think they will. I don't
think they will either. But the last thing, sorry, so much stuff on this. So I saw Playa mention that it's hard to find a name. So the way the game works is that your character name is unique on the server. And so when you go on, like someone could be named Hogue right now, and you would type in Hogue and it wouldn't be available. Someone already has it. So just be aware when you sign.
Use it well.
I'm gonna go on and create a Hogue character right now.
Your dad is playing as Hogue, and so you're gonna have to choose a different name. Maybe Hogue Jr. Yeah.
But just because I saw Bomber was signed, he's like, it keeps saying a name's taken, and I had to explain it's because it's server based, and so everything they do from the guilds to the connections with others is based on your player name in the game, not like a gamer tag, right, or PSN ID. It's your character name. So cool. Well, hell, we opened the show with a lot of Path of Exile too. I would say that if anyone has any questions, obviously you can hit me and Travis up. Between the two of us, we could probably answer anything that you have.
You can hit me up too, but I can't answer anything. It's up to you.
So 46 minutes in, let's do the intro.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to be talking about Path of Exile today. As well. But we got to get to Indy, man. We got to get to Indy. We got to get to some other games as well. We're going to be talking about Ubisoft. Hazelight's next game leaking. That's the It Takes Two developer. We had some stuff from the PC gaming show we're going to talk about as well. Before we do all that, let's get caught up on Super Chats. Let's get caught up on a couple other things. So Googleman kicking us off before we started a very long time ago with the $10 super chat, €10 super chat, excuse me.
Googleman81, €10. He writes, started playing Redoubt Enhanced Edition. It's pretty much Wipeout, but red.
Is it Redoubt or is it Redoubt?
It's not Redoubt.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why that struck me so funny. I was like, what is Redoubt?
Right, let me start over. Started playing Redoubt. Got it. Nailed it. Enhanced Edition. It's pretty much Wipeout, but red. Alas, the color doesn't prominently feature in the game. It's fast, though.
For the record, a Redoubt is like a fort, right?
Yes.
It's like part of a castle.
I thought that's what that word was,
game is.
But now that I'm reading it again, that just says Redoubt. So it's missing of all important B, I believe. But yeah, there we go.
I'm not positive, and this certainly isn't Googleman's fault, but I think that O might be capitalized in the official.
Okay, that would have certainly helped with the pronunciation.
I appreciate it was this way just for the comment alone. So that was very good.
Absolutely.
That's cool though. Yeah, I do remember this one, right? It was going for that Wipeout vibe. So I hope it's good. That's cool.
Wipeout's cool.
Googleman. Yeah, Wipeout was so big at one point.
What happened to sci-fi racing? So many options, now none. Sci-fi racing is cool. Come on, developers.
Yeah. Speaking of which, did you see there was a trailer for Tokyo Extreme Racer this week that came out?
Yeah.
I was like, I haven't heard that name in a long time. Anyway, Googleman, thank you very much. Shout out to the legendary Vintage Willow for gifting 5 SG memberships right at the top of the show. Vintage, thank you as always for your generosity. Ladays
offers $2 to write. Have any of you played Mouthwashing?
I have.
Highly rec.
I have played it. It is an indie narrative game. I won't go more into what it's about exactly, except that you're kind of on a spacecraft. That's it.
You're kind of on a spacecraft.
It's an indie narrative. It's about characters. It's about discontentedness with your job. It's about a whole bunch of other things. But it is dark. And
it's a horror game.
Well, it is
thriller
a game that wants to go into the mental aspects of someone going through some issues. Yes.
Yeah, it's horror in the same. It's like I have no mouth and I must scream type of like weirdness, right?
Harlan Ellison, I would say, had more interesting thoughts on these topics, but this game has resonated with a lot of folks. Not me so much, but with a lot of folks. So check it out. It's like $10.
I have not played it, but I've seen that it's like doing incredibly well on Steam. It's got like crazy popular reviews. So
as it turns out, just using an insane name for your game can work if you can punch through the findability problem.
Yeah, I had no idea what we were talking about here.
Added benefit, it also reminds me to keep up with my oral hygiene.
Yes, indeed. The name does have a meaning.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm really excited for the sequel, Listerine. So specific.
Days, thank you very much. I will actually take a look at that. Appreciate it. Random names in the house.
Random_name offers $4.99 and writes, great to be watching the best podcast live. Indiana Jones is in my list, board game of the year, but Metaphor still beats it.
Now there are good Indiana Jones board games.
Okay, so I read that one correctly, but
you read it right. I think it's game of the year, right? I was like, wait, what?
Okay. The silence was making me think maybe I had another brain lapse. I'm not.
No. Okay. There are good Indiana Jones board games, but I do not think that is the intended reference. Yes.
Which one?
That's cool.
I love board games.
Let's not talk about them.
You can go ahead and take a 10. Go ahead and take a lap. Hogan and I are going to talk about Indiana Jones board games.
Random name. Thank you, my friend. By the way, a bunch in chat asking me about Tokyo Extreme Racer. Yeah, I'm dead serious. Just go on YouTube, look it up. There is a new Tokyo Extreme Racer coming. Yes. Random name. Thank you, Mr. Alex. How we doing?
Alejandro Segovia, member for 10 months, writes Indiana Jones TGC,
the Great
out
Circle,
of nowhere, catapulted to my second favorite game of the year so
far. We're getting to it.
Some clunky combat aside, it nails the license with aplomb.
Yep.
Aplomb.
We will have a lot to say about Indy in just a second, Alex. I promise. It's funny. TGC is the Great Circle, but because I see it so much more often, I was reading it as trading card game.
Me too.
TCG.
Yeah. Yeah. Alex, yes, we will get to that shortly here. Tao
Zochi has been a member for 24 months. Happy 2-year anniversary here with us. He writes, Sup Bitcasters, enjoying Path of Exile 2, even with 2 crashes in like 6 hours. Have you guys had crashes?
Yes.
Enjoy your day. I had 1 crash.
In fact, I'm getting more crashes now than I did in the review period.
My guess is it has to do with the servers being live and having a whole bunch more people, but
yes and no, because they had server issues because of all the popularity. The issue I'm getting now, I play on PC. The issue I'm getting now is actually a DirectX 12 issue. So I don't know what happened, but I've had 4 crashes. I want to say. Oh no. But yeah, I've had 4 crashes in about, I think I've played for 10 hours since Friday. I've played a lot of Path of Exile 2.
Nice.
So
yeah, I got 1 crash in 110 hours, but I do not think my experience will be representative of most people. When a game is in a live environment, it just has more issues. So expect there to probably be more issues, which, by the way, seeing as I did have my entire Ains and I and Destin and everybody who's playing this game, we had all of our stuff deleted. Like, expect stuff like that to happen. I do not think it will be an isolated incident. The reason I think it won't be isolated is because when I told the team about this, they were like flat-footed by it and also couldn't figure it out. And their solution to help me with it was, hey, we'll have somebody log onto your game later tonight and like grind for you. And I was like, don't do that. That's a super nice offer, but that's a crazy way to solve the problem. Just forget about it. So yeah,
yeah,
good team. Scrappy.
Tao, thank
Literally
you.
grinding gears.
Yeah.
Just a comment I wanted to call out. This is from 20 minutes ago now, but we were talking about I was talking about the passive skill tree and how you can kind of create what you want. So to Arctic Wolf's point, he's a monk, but he's using lightning skill and a bow. So you can mix and match and just have fun with how you want to play it.
Some people got some weird builds, man.
Yep. Cherry Mills.
Cherry Mills has been a member for 22 months, and she writes, or he, I don't know. They write, is it too early to wish everyone a happy holidays? Smiling face with teeth, an evergreen pine tree, and a Christmas tree.
That's the before and after there, decorating. I like it.
Okay.
It's good.
Yes, I will wish you a holiday.
I will wish you a holiday. Cherry, thank you very much. Jeremy Morton.
Jeremy Morton gives me $9.99 to confer replay crew, but I wanted to say thanks for the case/rise of the Golden Idol recommendation. The first's art had me put off in the past.
Makes sense.
It sounds like Larry Ellison's a fellow Michigan fan now.
That's what I hear.
I don't understand
no idea
so
what
much
that's
about this, but I do
me neither.
I do like the case for the Golden Idol.
Jeremy, thank you for the super chat. Yes, the Golden Idol series is fantastic. I love it very, very much. Larry Ellison of Oracle helped fund the Michigan Wolverines football NIL platform, name, image, and likeness, to bring players in for signing day. So they got the best quarterback in the country. They got the best other players because Larry Ellison has decided to help fund the Michigan football program.
Oh, okay.
I will say I do see a lot of Michigan M's now that I know what that looks like. Thanks to you, Hogue. I do see a lot of Michigan M's in San Francisco and the Bay Area, which is weird.
We have a very broad fan base.
Okay.
Jeremy, thank you for the super chat. And of course, the best super chat so far from Like a Build.
Like a Build gives me €2 and writes like a build, 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 which is a hit song coming to iTunes, Spotify, and my OnlyFans.
And Google. And you can find the remix as a short on the SG channel as well.
Travis tried out for Wicked, but they just said no, we're good.
No.
Thank you, whoever you are. I like it. Appreciate you. And then, of course, we have Tides picks this week, which will lead us into Indiana Jones.
Nice. I must say, I love my look this week.
I like how non-threatening my boulder looks. That thing is definitely just sitting there.
It's not rolling at all.
It's the first thing I noticed, Hogue, when I looked at this. I was like, so me and Travis are really running from a boulder, and you're just running because there's a rock nearby.
I actually don't think you're running from a boulder, Ains. It looks to me like you're playing a very different video game where you're carrying boulders around on your back.
That's fine too.
You're kind of like, it doesn't look like you're running. It looks like you're maybe a Wreck-It Ralph type character playing some sort of concrete stone smashing game. I'm definitely running, or maybe trying to hide from it. I don't know. I'm crouching, trying to hide from the boulder, outsmart it. There he is. That's me. And then Rogue is just running away from a rock.
I'm LARPing. I just want to be part of the group.
Yeah. By the way, am I seeing things? I don't want to lean all the way into the screen. Are my arms and fists extremely hairy, or is that some sort of weird AI thing?
I don't.
You're hairy. It looks like you might have veins. I don't see.
Okay, we'll go with veins instead.
But that works. You do look very angry.
That's fine. That's normal.
Angry.
Yeah.
AI
I see the smiling face in the map. It's like two eyes and a mouth.
Oh yeah. I see it. Yeah, I see it.
What are you guys hallucinating? I don't see it.
Yeah. I think the AI might have been hallucinating, but
that's fair.
That's good. It's good, Ty. Thank you very much. Those are great.
Yeah.
All right. So
Ains looks like the guy that Indy fights under the plane. True.
So he looks like that in real life.
Yeah, that's not too dissimilar, to be honest. But yeah, we're gonna get into it. Before we do that, a couple things I didn't get to announce at the top. Right, I'm giving away a copy of of Indiana Jones Deluxe Edition today. So for those waiting to play it tomorrow, you can play it a little bit early if you already have Game Pass. It is a Deluxe Edition, meaning that you get the bonus, you get the DLC that's coming out for it later, you get the extra outfits, and of course you can play it right now, and it is Xbox and PC. You can play it wherever, right?
It's a deluxe edition of the game or deluxe edition upgrade, because you said you have to have Game Pass.
The whole game, $100 code. Yeah.
Nice. So you don't need Game Pass.
No. So anyone can enter. We're going to do that here shortly. Just bear with me. We're going to get to Indy. Of course, I would appreciate for Hogue. And I, of course, if you haven't liked the stream yet or shared it out, please do. But let's go ahead and talk about Indy, boys, because I'll tell you what, this game, I was excited about it. We've talked about it a lot leading up to this. I think I was maybe of the three of us the most excited for it, just based on what I saw. I think we've talked about Machine Games being a strong developer, right, and doing good things with Wolfenstein in the past. I know lots of people.
No, they're Nazis.
Lots of people. I know, Hogue, you called it out in particular, were concerned about first person and wondering how that was going to play. But I'll tell you what. Oh, and Troy Baker, whether or not he could pull off Indy, right, which we joked about in the past as well. I will say, I'll get us started by just saying I'm about maybe 5 hours in. I'm still pretty early. But I will say so far, I have adored this game. It puts a smile on my face playing it. I think they've done a tremendous job at capturing, not only is it really smooth and polished and pretty and all those superlatives, but it does a really good job of capturing that indie, what I would call vibe, for lack of a better word, of just like the little quips, the little musical accents when he does things, the music playing as you're exploring. I'm in love with this game. I was playing it last night. I didn't want to stop. Of course, had to go to Path of Exile 2 because I don't want to stop playing that either. And I joked with Hogue, if I could be playing both games at the same time right now, I would, because I love them both. But I'm really, really impressed at what I'm playing so far. I actually also talked to Sam Tolbert over at Windows Central, who's been a guest on this show before last night, and we were just chatting about it. And he said he wasn't even excited for this game, and he said it is now his game of the year, bar none. After finishing it. So yeah, I don't know about you guys.
At the Game Awards, missed the deadline.
Cannot.
Sorry,
that's
guys.
Fine.
That's because they're not real. It's okay.
Yeah. But no, I'm overly happy with what we got with this game so far anyway. And I can't wait to play more of it.
Well, let me say that it has reminded me of how much I loved Indiana Jones. And that is a testament to how well they have captured that vibe. I might use tone or atmosphere instead. But saying that, I'm not positive in terms of gameplay how much I am really enjoying the things that are typical of video games, the combat, the side quests, some of the things that are there to build out the time that you're spending in the universe. I like exactly what you've talked about, Ains, and I will add, in addition to the music, they've done a lot of things with like their cinematography, which is the wrong word for this because you're in charge of the camera the whole time. But like the lighting rigs and the way that they have shown these spaces are very much right out of an 80s Spielberg movie, right? Which of course Indiana Jones is. And so there's long shadows on the wall with lightning cast from the windows in various scenes. And all these things that will remind you exactly of Indiana Jones. And as for Troy Baker, I think he does a yeoman's job. He's like 90% Harrison Ford. The only problem I have with that is that the times when he doesn't do that are more noticeable because he's so good the rest of the time. And that seems like a harsh criticism because he's so good so often. But it really does pop out in a strange way when you hear Joel randomly in your Indiana Jones game. But I can't imagine anybody doing it better. And I'm no Troy Baker fan, so he did a really great job, and I will give him that.
I don't have anything.
I'm shocked at how good he is.
Yeah, I don't have anything against Troy Baker, but I can say like I can't tell the difference. Like he sounds like Harrison Ford, the way he's like mumbles kind of his way through the words. It's like I'm like, dude, that's like him. Like Jesus, like they really killed it. And then the model for Indy looks so dang good. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this game. I kind of like that it's the exact opposite in terms of pacing. of Wolfenstein. Like rather than like
It's not
go
Wolfenstein.
like blow
No.
through everything, it's like the exact opposite. Like you're spending most of your time like doing archaeology and like solving puzzles and taking photos of
Exploring.
cats on
I was
top
gonna say
of
finding
rooftops.
cats.
Yeah, finding cats, which is like something I did not expect to do in an indie game. But like I'm kind of okay. Like I barely done any combat. Like I think I got in a couple fist fights. I like whipped a gun out of somebody's hand, but I'm not like engaging in crazy shooter action stuff yet. I'm wondering if that's gonna come. But like so far, I'm just loving. I'm kind of in the mood for this type of game. Like it kind of feels like more like a puzzle exploration game, a little bit of like walking simulator stuff in it, which is now its own category, not just a an insult to certain types of games. I'm really enjoying my time with it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's
I'm
really good.
I'm surprised at the so I'm in Vatican City right now, and I'm playing like I do, which is slow, exploring everything. And I'm surprised. I guess I shouldn't be, maybe, but the level design has really impressed me. Like there's so many different paths to get to various areas and secrets and hidden things, and I keep on discovering new discoveries, right? They call them, where you can then go find other stuff. I spent over 2 hours last night just doing a little side quest, which was, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. You know what I mean? You're like finding a tomb and then you're doing this other stuff. And I'm just
I like taking
man,
pictures of stuff. I don't know. When that
is
little
crazy.
picture icon pops up, I'm like, let's take a photo of this.
Dude,
See
I
if
don't
we
even
can-
have that yet.
See if
That's
we
how
can get some
slow I'm
adventure
playing.
points. What the?
You don't have the camera
That's like
aimed?
at the beginning of the game.
Nope. Because I literally just went and started exploring everything off the side. I put the main quest right on the back burner.
Man,
Bruv.
to watch a stream of you playing, I can't even imagine. The camera is like the very first thing you do.
I snuck
This
into a
explains
place.
why you don't finish games. This is it.
I
right
snuck
here.
into a place last night, and there's 2 brochures that are like specials of things you can do around Vatican City, but it wouldn't let me pick them up because it says you don't have the camera yet.
Yeah, well, you're right there.
Yeah, those 2 brochures are where you get the camera.
Yep. It's true.
Probably in the quest, the main line or whatever, but I'm not on that.
You can skip all the mainline stuff you want, Ains. It's fine. I think if I have a problem with it is that they have built up these spaces to be kind of linear open in a way that's really cool, like Vatican City, and I would imagine other regions as you go further in the game. But the side quests to me are not as interesting. And I shouldn't say side quests because they do have kind of side quest missions that have characters and cinematics that they call field work. The ones that I'm talking about are, I think they label them as mysteries, which is the find the cat and take pictures of it and that kind of thing, that are clearly just not terribly insightful or
they're just a little
compelling.
extras. Yeah.
On their own.
I like them, man. I'm probably enjoying the side quests more than like the main mystery right now. I don't know why. There's just something about this game where I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of do want to take photos of these cats. Like I want to, and even after you complete the quest, I'm like, well, did I find all the cats? Because I want to get some of those extra adventure points, if you take photos of the additional ones. So I don't know, man. I don't know what it is.
I will say
by
it's very gamified, right? I do want to talk about the adventure points just a bit because you get points for helping people, you get points for taking pictures, you get points for all these various things, and then you use those points to read books. Like there's some disconnect between the gameplay systems there from a kind of lore basis. It's gamified. That's fine. A lot of games are gamified, but I can't understand why taking pictures of cats allow me to read a book.
I can.
Great. Help me out, Trav.
So when you go on adventures, it really opens your mind to new ideas, right? Whether that adventure be solving a mystery of a long lost civilization or finding somebody's lost cat, I think that your brain is more kind of open to new ideas and new information once you have experienced the world through your own kind of perspective. That's my view on what's really going on in Indiana Jones's progression system.
It's not the biggest deal in the world. I'm glad that there is progress. I'm glad that there's a reason to do these things. But like the other kind of open systems interlocking with each other games that I've played this year, like Rebirth, like Infinite Wealth, I do prefer it when there is a kind of some logic to why these things impact these other things. And I think this was just, no, it's fine. They want to do the side quest, let them do the side quest. They earn this currency to do this other thing. It's fine. And to some extent, I'm okay with that. But it does strike me as weird that adventure points are this big kind of catch-all for all these other different things that you can do, from opening labyrinths and figuring out things like Indiana Jones to taking pictures of cats. So I think that's a minor criticism of the game. I think overall it is a tremendous Indiana Jones experience. It will make you feel like Indiana Jones. They've gotten all the little John Williams cues, as you suggested, Ains. It sounds like Indiana Jones or the Goonies or anything else that he did in the 80s with that kind of mystery, wonder, and awe.
We're getting a lot of that lately.
We are.
Love it. I love it.
This
Skeleton
one is actually
Crew, Indiana Jones, pretty crazy.
Yes, Skeleton Crew.
Well, don't take us to Star Wars. I see what you're doing.
We don't have to talk about Skeleton Crew right now.
Do you like it, Hogue?
But
no, stop. Hogue, keep going.
But we can go back to Indiana Jones. And I do think that there's a Star Wars discussion to be had here, because I think that this game has a lot in common with Star Wars Outlaws in the way it's structured and the problems that it has. Right? Like the combat in Star Wars Outlaws is where people got mad. The stealth is where people got mad. I don't think the stealth in this game is very strong. I think they went for naturalistic indicators. So like his hand raises when you can knock someone out and these various other things. But the combat in this game is pretty close to abysmal. Like the people will charge you. They will run directly through your first person point of view. It doesn't look good. It isn't engaging. And while I like the sound effects, like they have the ridiculously over mic'd like punching sound effect.
I love it.
From Indiana Jones games. Like that's great. But just slamming on the right trigger until the people fall down in front of you is not compelling. And I actually think that this game could have been better with even fewer enemies in combat situations than it has. And it doesn't have a ton. This is not Wolfenstein, right? But I think that the combat really lets this game down, and everything that you're doing when you aren't fighting these guys is better than fighting the guys.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I think then again, the way I'm playing.
You haven't played anything yet.
Yeah, in the 5 hours, I've fought like 3 dudes, just because my entire thing, I've gone through the whole Vatican City now, and I haven't been discovered. You know what I mean? Like I sneak everywhere. So, yeah.
In 5 hours, you fought like 3 dudes. It's
yeah,
in and out of the game.
Dude, I was playing Saturday night. That's what you do.
Yeah, it's good times.
I don't know what to tell you about your play style, Ains. I do
Dude,
know
it is unhinged. That's pretty crazy, Ains. Five
it's not unhinged.
When you said fun. 5 hours, I was
I've completed multiple side quests, mysteries. It's fun.
I do want to talk about one thing that we have thought about behind the scenes, Ains. Because I think when you're
put this out there, reputation of you is going to go down.
When you're talking about the college, when you're talking about Vatican City, these are 2 levels that take place after a first level that I think is
amazing.
Absolute waste of our time. And that is a level that recreates the opening scene plus extra boring filler of one of the best movies ever, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it doesn't add anything to this game and seems so obviously to me to be a proof of concept that was worked on at Machine to show, hey, can we make this feel like Indiana Jones? And then they just kept it in the game. It does nothing. It serves no purpose. It doesn't involve any of the systems that you're going to learn about when you get into the real levels of the game. And it just wastes your time to make something that looks worse than you remember it from one of the best movies ever.
I don't really know where to begin with this. So in all seriousness, we were talking yesterday about this and joking about it. So for me, when I played it, and yes, to Hogue's point, the opening 10, 15 minutes, depending on how fast you just run through, right, is you play through the famous opening scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark, where you, with your couple explorers, you go into the cave, you get the idol, you run. Go through a couple traps, right? For me, when I was playing that, I'm not joking, I was smiling ear to ear the whole time. Because I think what it did for me is the fact that we grew up, well, maybe not Travis, but if you're a kid of the 80s, right, that scene, that opening to Raiders is iconic. You know what I mean? It's what we grew up with. And I get your point.
VHS.
I get your point of like, yeah, maybe the game doesn't do it as well as the movie, but I don't think that's the point. You're getting to manually play as Indy through one of the favorite scenes of movies ever. And I thought that the way they at least tried to replicate one-to-one the scenes with the trap and the guy and the swinging and the running, right, was so cool to me. I absolutely adore that opening. And then, obviously it then flows into the waking up and doing the main game. But yeah, I loved it. I loved it.
Right. That's when the game actually starts after that. But no, to me, I watch some of these channels, right? Whether it's Best of the Worst or Riff Tracks or that comment on these old or bad movies. And one of the things that always kind of combines these movies in my mind is that the directors add in all this filler. You'll watch the car actually leave the driveway and go out into the street or what have you. And this version of Peru is the same as the version you remember, with worse graphics and all these long sequences where you're walking through areas that were cut for time, if you will, to make the sequence engaging. So you're just playing a more boring, worse looking version of something that you know better.
So here's my thoughts on this. And I'm probably in between you two, because I don't have the same, like, I love Indiana Jones, but like the scene is not like holy to me. But I will say the one thing about it that I thought was useful is that everyone who is playing this game knows exactly what happens in that scene. And so if you're trying to tutorialize players, it's super easy to do that when they know exactly what is supposed to happen at every stage. And so I found it as wasn't like beaming with joy playing this part, but I thought it was very clever that they taught you how to play the game by showing you something you already knew how to do, and then showing you what buttons to press to get through that. And then by the end of that sequence, you're like, okay, I know how to play this game now, because without any like on-screen help, because I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I know the part where he swaps the head. I know the part where he's pressing stones with the staff. I know the part where he's using the whip to crit across the gap. And so it teaches you each of those parts, and it barely even has to train you to do it because you know that scene already. And so that was the part that I thought was actually useful about it. But I wasn't like, oh my God, it's so great. I get to play through this scene I love.
Because you didn't grow up with it. Sit down, Junior.
I did grow up with it. It was already in the same way I grew up with Star Wars. Like I grew up with Star Wars, but that came out 20 years before I was alive. So yeah.
All right. So we're going to put a poll up on the SG side, and really what we're trying to get to the bottom to is, do you like, or is the intro to the Great Circle amazing, or is Hogue insane? It's one of those two things. I think we can
now
get to the
Hogue
bottom
gets
of it.
to learn about these the way that these polls are constructed.
Well,
we'll get to the bottom of it.
If Ains only offers I'm wrong, well, I'm going to have some issues with that poll.
We would never do that. This is a fair poll. We're just trying to understand, the crux of the issue here.
No, my biggest problem with this poll is that I can't check both boxes.
I really think it's a waste of time. I really think it should have been cut. It's an easy cut. It doesn't influence the rest of the game at all.
Well, it does. And it does mean you have to find a new way to get a tutorial.
I don't think it tutorializes much at all. And it certainly doesn't tutorialize the stuff that's important, which is the journal and the maps and mystery system and everything else that's going on with understanding how the levels work. So it's press X to do something, but it's like almost nothing that's important in the game.
Well, I just think if you're a casual like that, going through that scene at the very beginning does teach you how to play the game. Like I'm looking at this from like a very casual player, because I think it's going to draw a lot of like casual players who just love Indiana Jones. And I do think it has some purpose. I get your criticism, Hogue, totally.
I don't.
I think I'm in between you and Ains.
Honestly, Hogue, when you first typed it in our Bitcast DM, the three of us and with Dan, I thought you were being sarcastic.
No,
because I was so happy playing that.
I don't want to feel resentful about a game while I start it, and it really felt like it was wasting my time.
Oh man, you're killing me. All right,
I really like this game.
We'll get to the bottom of it with this poll. We will get to the bottom of this conversation. But no, in all seriousness, Machine Games, by all accounts, have really done a bang-up job on this one in a lot of ways. So if you, obviously it launches on Game Pass tomorrow. The Deluxe Edition came out Friday. We're going to move on to other games now. But if you want to, I'm going to pick a winner of the Deluxe Edition. I will send the code today, right after the show. In either chat, either on Hogue side or SG side, I don't really care. Just put in capital letters, Indy, I guess. Just go with Indy in caps. If you want to enter for this code, I will put everyone in a sheet and just randomize it and pick a winner after the show. So please do that for me. And yeah, someone will get to play it today and get all the bonuses to go along with that. So
it is a
cool.
really good game. Intro notwithstanding.
Damn
it is.
I want to quickly mention the Thing remastered. I won't spend long on this, but I was talking to the PR company behind the Thing remastered. This is one that was remade by or remastered by Night Dive Studios, the same company that did System Shock and other games. So I played a little bit of this yesterday, actually, and I have two thoughts on it. One, the Thing was a great movie game when it released. And I need to play more of it. And two, my other comment is sometimes I think we take for granted how far video games have come in the past decade or two, because in playing through this structurally, mechanically, it is still very dated. So the frame rate's super smooth. They've just up-resed the classic kind of polygonal textures, right, that are very blocky. So it plays well, but man, mechanically and structurally, that's an old game. So, I'm going to play a little more of it. But, if you really like this game, you have fond memories, nostalgia, you love the movie franchise, whatever it may be, the IP, definitely check it out. It came out on Friday, I believe, on the consoles.
I think it was shadow dropped.
I'm not
sure.
Yeah, because I talked to PR a couple weeks ago, and then I think it leaked on Xbox Wire by accident, and then it just kind of came out, and I got sent a code for it. So checking it out. I'll talk more about it in the future.
The
Thing remastered.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So like I said, if you back in the day. Yeah. So if you really like it, why do you have blue dots over your eyes on my screen, Travis? Is that just me?
I think it's his monitor.
Oh,
that's really odd. I've never seen that before.
That's kind of cool. No, I'm gonna try to put him over my pupils.
He's been exposed as the Thing.
Yeah, he's changing. But anyway, like I said, if you really adored it, check it out. But just don't be surprised. I will tell you, going from Indy and Path of Exile 2 to the Thing remastered.
Oh, it's from my phone.
That's a jump. Yeah, that's a jump backwards.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about the remaster, and I tend to like Night Dive's work. I don't have any connection to the Thing video game. I don't think I played it back in whenever that would have been 20 years ago.
It's a while, yeah. It was early 360 gen. Am I thinking about that right? I think. So
that sounds about right.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, there you go. So I'll talk more about it if I play more. But I want to hand it off to you guys because of the Path of Exile 2 review, obviously, and now since Friday, Indy. I haven't played anything else outside of that. So I know Marvel Rivals came out. I've heard really good things about it from some of the people at SG. But I'm sure there's other games you'd like to touch on, including our Hoag's Notes, of course. So go for it.
Well, I think Indiana Jones is probably the second most played game in Hoag House this weekend, because a major game that I'm going to recommend to folks, but please do listen to the whole description before you jump on this one, because it's certainly a specific taste, is a game called Infinity Nikki that released this past week.
Good game.
That is absolutely fantastic, but it is a game about playing dress up with fancy dresses and skirts and tops and things while you explore a fantasy world with your talking cat friend. It is obviously not for my demographic. My daughter absolutely adores it, can't stop playing, and it is very generous as a gacha game. So it's free to play. You can get Infinity Nikki right now. You can go play it to your heart's content, and you really don't have to spend any money on it for a long period of time. It's a gacha game, so it's trying to sell you, instead of characters, as in the case of something like Genshin Impact, pieces of your outfit.
Swag,
yes, indeed. So that you have different dresses that can do different things. They have different powers and different abilities. But you can get the gacha to get you the gloves and the socks and the shoes and the hairpiece and everything else differently. But it is gorgeous, and these pieces of fashion are gorgeous, and it makes for a very good video game that I wouldn't have expected when I downloaded it to show it to my daughters. It's a well done game. It's very nice to see a free to play studio kind of out there combating the Hoyoverse, which are games that I have liked in part, but always do feel like they've got one hand in your wallet. And Infinity Nikki might wind up feeling like that, but I suspect that it won't feel like that until you get to dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of content. It is absolutely enormous. There is tons of stuff to get, both through the gacha and to buy with the in-universe currency from the stores in the actual game. And it's just really, really fun. But it does play out like a Sailor Moon episode in terms of plot. I mean, everybody's got issues with their family members and emotion and trying to become the best stylist they can be, which is the word for making cool fashions in Mirrorland, the world of Infinity Nikki. But it is one of the best iterations of this type of game that I have played on console. So if you like gacha games and that you don't have a gambling problem with them, and they're not driving you to the poorhouse or anything like that, Infinity Nikki is a fantastic rendition of this type of game.
I will second this. We are Infinity Nikki stands in the Northup household. For those who don't know, and I've been a Nikki fan for a while, this is the 5th game in this series, if you don't know. So these games have been out for a while, and they are quite good. And I also enjoy dressing up my fabulous lady like a princess, or
she deserves it.
It's really, it really depends. D is all in on this game. I also enjoy it. Good game. Everybody should play it. And I like gacha games.
It's really, really good. And for the folks in the chat asking, well, what do you do other than dress up your character? It is essentially a open world game like Genshin Impact, but instead of being a Zelda where you fight enemies, for the most part, you're playing cozy mechanics, right? So you have an outfit that you will magically transform into to pet the dogs, or to catch the butterflies, or to do various other things that have
sort of an Animal Crossing
with it.
Vibe to it.
Yes, but in a wide open world with characters and side quests that you can play until you drop dead because it's just that big. And also musical numbers and lore that is like straight out of the darkest, weirdest Final Fantasy that you can imagine. So you're a magical girl that changes into different dresses to do things, but also maybe there's a darkness that is seeped through into the entire world, and gods that are on the bend, and all these various.
You got to play the other Nikki games, Hoke, if you really want to know the full lore.
It's the strangest combination, honestly, and it's like, wow, this is really kind of Final Fantasy, but mostly I'm trying to find a really cool sweater that'll match those shoes.
What I think is interesting, Hoke, is that this game is better than Elden Ring, and that people who haven't played both can't confirm or deny that. And so what I think is interesting is that if you're on this podcast and you haven't played both, you can't really have an opinion on the subject. And so I'm able to say it. That's what I think is really interesting about this game. Hope, back to you.
Yes. Well, I see the trap that you laid there, Travis. But yes, I want to just tell people about this game.
Travis is now muted for the rest of the show, by the way. So Hoke, please.
It is very generous. If you get worried about gachas or free-to-plays in general, I have found it to be on the more generous side of playtime. I wanted to tell folks about it because I think it's pretty easy to skip over. You don't know what this crazy game is with the jazz music and the cat and everything else. The other thing that you do in terms of the cozy game aspect of it is you're not doing a lot of fighting. You're purifying sad sacks and other people that don't recognize the awesomeness of good fashion.
Sacks.
The monsters are called sad sacks. Yes, they are.
Oh, they're actually called that. I thought you were making a joke.
No, they're called sad sacks. They don't realize how great fashion and style is. But you go through this world and you're looking for these things called whim stars, because the power of whim is the power of magic in this world. And it's mostly like Mario, right? It's mostly like going on a collectathon and picking up the various things that you can pick up in the world and following coin chains in order to figure out how to get to that star in the distance. And then maybe when you get to that star, you might have to play a mini game of some kind in order to earn that star. And when you get enough of those whim stars, you spend them in your Heart of Infinity to gain other abilities, other outfits, and other pieces of fashion. It is definitely not aimed at this demographic. But if this demographic does enjoy good gameplay loops and a good open world to explore, they will still like this.
This is peak video game if you are a brony. Any bronies out there?
It does have that friends we made along the way vibe.
Any bronies out there? Any fellow fans of Twilight Sparkle?
Friendship is magic, folks. It's
Friendship
true.
is magic. Let's go.
Although, I do love that these types of games exist, in the sense of, this is the great thing about video games is, in all jokes aside, right? Like there's literally any game for the type of experience you want to have. And I think that's awesome.
And this is the beauty of microtransactions, right? They get a lot of crap. There's a lot of people that are reached into your wallet too much, and they can ruin certain aspects of game design. But this is such a high kind of graphical experience for free that you can get on your console right now. And my daughter has played it seemingly every day. She's probably upset that I'm on the Bitcast right now because we can't play together right this second. But it is just it is something that I am so happy exists and that I can recommend to everybody. And if you do find yourself in the demographic or otherwise just as a person that really likes fashion and fancy dresses and fancy sweaters with gold filigrees and all these various things that would be very difficult to make in the real world, but all look like they are in reality in this particular game, you should check it out because you really can make lots of cool different outfits if that's what floats your boat.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Don't be a sad sack like Ains. Play this game. If you have played Elden Ring, you'll notice that it's better.
I'm not a sad sack. I'm playing Path of Exile 2 and Indy. How can I be a sad sack?
Path of Exile 2 does sound like a sad sacky type game.
And also your style is completely drab. You're wearing you don't understand what it's like to dress up
this hoodie would not play in Infinity Nikki Land.
No, that's that gear right there.
Although we did earn a cool hoodie from beating a Boldy, which is a giant boulder monster, and we had to take that sketch and find more Boldy gems to actually craft the Boldy sweatshirt. And we did.
I think watching Ains learn about games that he has no interest in is maybe my favorite thing. I think it's maybe just watching him process what's going on is very good to me. Very good. Yeah.
Oh boy. That's cool.
Guys, you should play all types of games. You never know if you'll end up liking it. Like Nikki did surprise me. First time I played it, I think I got in like the second game in the series, and like I was like, damn, I hate that I like this game. But sometimes games surprise you.
It does make you feel like, oh, well, this game clearly wasn't made for me, and yet I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's exactly what I felt about Friendship is Magic, My Little Pony, dude. Sometimes you're like, man, I don't know. It's just good. Quality is quality. So everybody should try it. And by the way, I did try to review this game, and it was a fierce competition I was not expecting.
It's a big game. I mean, it has a big audience.
That's right. So, but I did trade. I traded this review for I'm officially reviewing a game I've been fighting to review for many, many, many months, which is I Am Jesus Christ.
Oh no.
Well,
I'm very, very excited to review that game.
Oh my god.
Very excited.
I don't know what Infinity Nikki got from IGN, but I hope
9 out of 10.
All right.
It got a 9 out of 10, which, by the way, I think the Asmongold video shows the Infinity Nikki score next to my review, Path of Exile, getting an 8. And just like, he's like so upset in the video. And I'm like, yeah, but
wildly different kinds of games.
Nikki's pretty good. I don't think you played it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I 9 out of 10 feels right. But it's really, really good. It's really, really good. Cool. It will depend on your ability to metabolize jazz music, talking Japanese cats, and fashion. But it's really, really good.
Those are 3 of my favorite things. Just look at my interests on my Facebook page. Yep.
It is funny. A lot of jazz music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we were actually talking about this game on our Discord last week because we talked about coverage of it because it is very big, right? It has a big audience. So cool. I'm glad it's that good, though.
It is that good.
All right. Let's catch up. We got a super chat from our good friend Sid. Catch up on.
Siddharth Shishokar comes in with 400 rupees and writes, about Path of Exile 2, really impressed personally with it, like the game feel. Although compared to the first, do you think the slightly Soulsian pace can be at odds with blasting the campaigns in leagues? It's early, though. Yes, I would say that feels more prominent early in the game, and as your build comes together, your second playthrough of the campaign is like 10x faster than your first playthrough. And then when you get into endgame, if you don't get your build deleted like I did, it goes even faster, and you kind of just start to blow through. That still gives it a sometimes Soulsian pace in a boss fight. If you have a bunch of modifiers turned on and you're doing things to make the games more challenging, they keep that. But I would say that the slow pace is pretty much exclusive to the first 45 hours of the game, and then it really starts to ramp up and you can start melting people.
Yeah, the builds have a slower arc than like a Diablo, right? So it takes a while to get going in that sense. Also, but I think even with that, Travis, none of us know right now what acts 4 through 6 are going to look like. It is meaty.
We have kind of an idea, but yeah,
we have an idea, but it's meaty. Like I could see having to create a new character and play acts 1 through 6 once 1.0 comes out as being a pretty long experience. There's a lot there, so we'll see. But yes, Sid, thank you very much. Always appreciate the support. All right. I was going to move on to news topics unless there's any other game you want to talk about.
I've got a game I want to talk about.
Go.
Let's do it.
Do you want to go first? Are you finishing Hogue Notes?
I have. I think there's definitely at least one game I want to talk about.
All right.
Probably two.
I would like to talk about a romantic comedy interactive movie called I Fall in Love Too Easily. This is a Korean comedic romantic comedy that is an interactive movie. I played this with an elderly Filipino woman who enjoys Korean dramas, and she made all the decisions. This is a very bad game. I do not recommend it. Its acting is atrocious. Its writing is unintelligible. The paths that you take in trying to find out who you kissed drunkenly last night are nigh nonsensical. And I must say, very disappointed. Do not spend the $8 or whatever I spent on this game. And if you have any questions about my experience with it or anything I just said really in the last 60 seconds, I will not be commenting further. Hogue, back to you.
I have to say, Ains, I'd like to bring a labor complaint. Everything I click on in this interface is Travis finding different ways to ask me about Skeleton Crew. He's creating a hostile work environment.
Did you like it though? I just want to know.
Noted. No, see, Travis is going back on mute. Travis is back on mute. Don't worry about him. Carry on.
I wanted to bring up Fantasian, which is Sakaguchi and Mistwalker's Final Fantasy game. Yes, it is called Neo Dimension now because it's a port of what was a mobile game.
Yeah.
It clearly feels better in console format. I didn't enjoy it really through the app arcade, but it is very much a game that is a mobile port. Like you will know it from the user interface and all the giant bubbles that look like you should tap your television screen in order to talk with these people. But it's a very good game. It is, in my opinion, what Final Fantasy would have been if they just kind of increased resolutions and went in the direction of like Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy IX and kept making those games up through 2024. It's clearly not Remake or Rebirth or even 16. But if any of that sounds good to you, it's very definitely an ode to Final Fantasy. And it's not that expensive. It is a mobile port. You'll see that immediately. But I've been enjoying it this week, and I wanted to mention it because I don't see enough people talking about it. So Fantasian Neo Dimension is the full title, but
really good name.
Fantasian will be enough. I believe in mobile it was Neo Fantasian or something like that. Maybe not.
But then the Neo wasn't as Neo, so they had to move it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's Fantasian as of right now. It's got a lot of that Mistwalker DNA. If you like things like, oh God, what's the game with the Immortal? What's the Mistwalker game with the Immortal? Lost Odyssey.
He asked what JRPG
Lost
has
Odyssey.
an Immortal.
It's
about
got
5 billion of them.
Good.
It's got
Lost Odyssey though.
It's got that Lost Odyssey DNA with some of the things that it does with its characters. And while the diorama idea, if you don't know this game, a lot of the backgrounds instead of being rendered are photographs of dioramas.
I'm sorry.
That were
Do you need some Pepto-Bismol?
Let him finish.
Okay, go ahead.
These dioramas are a cool idea to avoid some of the kind of the rendering issues that you might have making a game like this, but the resolutions of the photos are probably not as high as you would like. So you do kind of get the feel that you're playing a remaster of something like Final Fantasy VIII with like the high resolution 3D characters on a background in that vein. But I do recommend it to people. The other game I wanted to mention, because I did. Yes, Travis, what do you recommend?
I recommend putting their nose in the diorama so they know not to do it again.
Very nice.
Show them what they did.
I think people will like this game, which is why I'm mentioning it here. Don't listen to Travis. But the other thing I wanted to mention, I love mystery games. I mentioned Rise of the Golden Idol last time we were on. And I love a publisher named Dear Villagers that makes indie games that all have pretty strong narratives. And I wanted to mention this game that I saw in the store a couple weeks ago while we were on break that I have been enjoying called Mind Cop, in which you are a police officer that can dive into the witnesses' minds. Then you have to surf their minds in a jazzy kind of Tetris puzzle thing and arrive at kind of dream state understandings of the truth and lies and everything else. But outside of that conceit, the real trick of this game is that you just kind of get an entire city to go through and get to decide whatever you want to do on any given day. And then you have a time limit to how much time you can spend doing anything on that day. And whether or not you want to arrest someone that day, because the town can only hold one person at a time. And when you arrest someone or you get a search warrant, like they stop talking to you and their family and loved ones stop talking to you. And so you're managing time and you're figuring out how to proceed like a real detective in a Mind Cop universe by figuring out what you want to spend your time on, where you want to go, and which leads you want to follow. And I think it's a really well done design from an indie studio making a game that's new and different. And I love mysteries, so I wanted to mention that to people as well. And that is all I'm going to talk about on Hoag's Notes.
You would play a game called Mind Cop.
Did you say the town can only hold one person?
The town, the jail in the town can only hold one person. So you can you can arrest one person a day, and then they and their family will get really mad at you. But you can arrest them for the murder that you're investigating or for other crimes that you've discovered around the town.
Taking away people's liberty one day at a time. That's why I only play Mind Renegade, where you just it's a game where you just have thoughts and nobody can stop you. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool game.
All right. Yeah, I thought you said the town can hold one person. I'm like, that's not much of a town, but all right.
I think it's cool.
They have a housing crisis.
Apparently. A major one.
That sounds like a cool game, Hoag. Thank you.
All right, cool. All right. So a couple of things to touch on. Let's jump over to Ubisoft. Ubisoft in the news again this week with not so great, not great news, I'll tell you, Travis. So X Defiant, which is a game I've actually put some time into and think is sadly quite good. They announced is shutting down on June 3rd. In addition to that, they are no longer accepting new player registrations, which is kind of weird considering they still said Season 3 content, which they were getting ready to roll out, will still be released because it's basically content complete. So they're going to release new content for a game that you literally cannot sign up for to play anymore. But the game will shut down entirely on June 3rd. And in parallel to this, of course, they announced that they're cutting about 277 jobs. So the San Fran and Osaka production studios have shut down, and they are resources are ramping down in their Sydney location and being reassigned to other projects. So we feel like Ubisoft.
No, but I mean, which studio? They're not shutting down like all of their Ubisoft office.
Ubi calls them by their city, so it's like Ubisoft.
Yeah, I just said. Like, were you listening?
Yeah, I was listening, but they're not shutting down like their entire San Francisco operations. So like which
the development studio.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, not their offices, right? But the development board of it. So San Francisco and Osaka, and then in Sydney, part of the team is being reassigned. And basically what they're looking to do now, which I think we talked about previously, is there's apparently ongoing discussions with the Guillemot family looking to retain control, but look for a partial buyout. So investors from Tencent to others are looking at how they can invest in Ubisoft while Guillemot family tries to retain control of operations. And I believe we talked about that before, didn't we? But that's continuing.
Well, we had heard rumors that they might do a reorg. And I think the only news right now is that there are leaks that Tencent would ask for more board control in this situation. And the one thing that I did say on social media with respect to this story is that is what a minority investor has purchased for this circumstance, right? They don't want to be in this circumstance, but you get in early stage and say, if you're going to need more money from me, if we're going to go into a reorganization, then I'm going to want a seat on the board, or I'm going to want veto rights or other protective provisions as the shareholder. And so this isn't unusual at all. And the fight between what amounts to the founder group with the Guillemot family and the minority investor with Tencent is what you expect from these kinds of things, especially if the minority investors stop trusting management to actually control their budgets and release products and services that they want. So this is not unexpected. It is also not good, right? This is the kind of thing that you can survive, and companies have and become stronger going through a process like this. And certainly Ubisoft has fended off hostile takeover bids and things. And I wouldn't want to fight the Guillemot family on control of the company in most circumstances. But Tencent is probably going to get what they want here, some kind of control over Ubisoft, or they're going to back out their investment entirely. And I really don't see a situation where one of those two things doesn't happen. So this is strange days for Ubisoft. And if you like their games, if you're a big Skull and Bones fan, for instance, it's a time of great change and trepidation.
Yeah, you said it. It's kind of I have to imagine that's a funny situation if you're in leadership and you say, we want your money to stay alive, but we want to keep running the company. That's just a weird argument to kind of make.
Tough one to walk, but
yeah.
Yeah, this is weird. I'm reading about the closure. Their SF office is staying open, which is on 3rd Street. Great office, guys. Been there many times. I played Assassin's Creed there most recently, the VR game. And it sounds like they are keeping some of their developers because the VR team is still operating out of there. So the way that they define studios and closures is a little confusing to me, but it seems like this is specifically the Defiant team that they're targeting.
Yeah, no, the report from Reuters literally said that all dev in San Fran and Osaka is shut down.
Yeah, that doesn't appear to be the case according to local San Francisco news about the office closing, but
cool.
I don't know.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's better, right?
Yeah, 143 employees is nothing to shake a stick at, but the office is still being located there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yep, and Osaka, I think
people what they want, Ubisoft.
It's freaking industry, man.
A new driver, San Francisco. Let's go.
Dude, that would be sick.
That would actually be cool. Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, so we'll see. I think we said this last time. We'll see what happens. I mean, they've pushed Shadows to February. Shadows is going to be probably a pretty big indicator of where they're going to head. That's their biggest release coming by far.
Kill. Yeah, they need
it to do extremely well, and we'll see what happens. I mean, it looks great. I love what I saw back in June, and I'm excited for it, but we'll see. So that's Ubisoft. So also leaked this week, and whether you care about leaks or not, but this seems to be a very valid one, is Hazelight's next game. So Hazelight is the company that did Brother and It Takes Two, Joseph Ferris, kind of infamous for the Game Awards and other things.
What was the name of their jail escape game? Like that one never gets mentioned.
No Way Out.
Thank you.
Great game.
Yes. I did not like that game.
Really?
Personally.
Did you get to the end?
No, I've seen the end. I didn't play the
mid
end
until you get to the end, and then the person you're playing with, you're like soul bonded with for life. So it's quite. I mean, it's worth it just to get to the end of the game.
The writing was so bad. The writing was so bad.
Yeah, but it's campy, and then it's one of the things you have to experience. It doesn't ask a lot of your time, and then you get to the end, and like I watched 3 or 4 people play that game, and you're having fun with it. It's kind of goofy throughout, and then when you get to the end, it like everybody remembers who they played that game with because you have like a special relationship with that person.
Yeah,
I think
that's
unique.
Yeah, I remember.
In fairness,
by the way, it's A Way Out, not No Way Out. Sorry.
He's just a big Andor fan, folks.
It's a good episode of television.
It is.
That's a good episode of television. Maybe the best episode of that show.
But the leak on their next one is called, the title's called Split Fiction. You hear it.
The episode is called One Way Out, Hogue. Not to correct you, but I'd have to correct you. It's called One Way Out. Anyway, Ains, go. Sorry.
Split Fiction. Obviously by the title, it sounds like it probably will be another 2-player experience in some form. It is rumored to be releasing on March 6th, and that we're going to see the trailer for it this week. The Game Awards are later this week. Do the math. We will probably see this at the Game Awards on Thursday, so we will see. So
Hogue is really excited for the Game Awards on Thursday, by the way. Before we started the show, he was talking about how like he's never been more like all in on Keighley and his show, and He's really excited.
He said he hopes he could just teleport to Thursday.
And he also wants Elden Ring to.
Man, I've been a pretty good Keeley defender, I think, in my commentary on these things, and I never feel like I get any return on investment for that. So, Game Awards, no, thank you.
Hogue is very transactional with his relationships. If you're not giving him a return, he wants an ROI on your friendship, and if you don't give it, he dumps you like a sack of bricks.
I got to tell you, everybody is transactional in their relationships, folks, and anybody that tells you they aren't is lying to you.
Wow, very cynical view of the world.
Yeah, I don't know about that there, Hogue.
I don't know if that's true, Hogue. I think maybe you need a hug. Maybe you need a non-transactional hug.
Come here, Hogue. Come here, Hogue.
Come on, buddy.
Now, why would you give me a hug, Ains?
Because you're a great person. Why wouldn't I give you a hug?
Because you deserve it.
No, neither of those is true. Come on now.
You're not a great person and you don't deserve it. Okay. Man, you just learned Hogue's going through it, guys. Go ahead, sound off in the comments. Let's give some affirmation to Hogue. Non-transactionally, let's just like show him that people can just be nice and kind.
Before we went off on Hogue's psychological state, I was going to say that when you commented on the Way Out writing, I really hated the writing in It Takes Two as well. And I know that the gameplay is fun. I know that there's people that enjoy that, and it won that award from that show. But I really disliked all of the relationship, marriage, kids stuff in that game.
Okay. Fair enough.
I liked both.
I liked it. What do you call it? It Takes Two better than A Way Out. I thought that was quite good.
That's correct. Game of the year. It Takes Two.
Game of the year.
It was Game of the year.
Well, no, it was Game of the Year in one award show. That's not really an award show. So
more award shows. I think more people give it. I think IGN gave it Game of the Year. I can't remember.
Again, you're not helping your case, but that's fine.
Dude, come on. That was a good game. It's unique.
It was a good game. I didn't say it wasn't.
Okay.
What year did that release? In all seriousness, I forget.
I don't remember. I just remember like thinking like, yeah, that feels right when it won.
Let me look. Let me look. I'll give you a game better than it instantly by looking at the year it released.
Let's see.
What year did it release? 2021. Psychonauts 2. Better game than It Takes Two. Done.
Was that 2021?
I don't know.
I don't think it was 2021 because I was on this show when Psychonauts 2 came out, and I was not on the show in 2021. I think you just made that shit up, bro.
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah. We're gonna move on. But we'll see if we'll see what this looks like on Thursday probably, and we'll go from there. So, Forza Horizon 5. There you go. Better game than It Takes Two. Thank you.
Sorry, that is Alex. What IGN gave Game of the Year actually.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
We got the PC gaming show this week, and they showed a few things, a lot of indie games, different things. I didn't want to really go down any list here, but there's a couple games I wanted to call out that I thought would be interesting to both our audience and or us. The one that got a lot of play, if you didn't see it, was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown, which is a new TMNT game that is turn-based. A lot of their games have come out of like that arcade-style co-op action game. This one is more of a turn-based, kind of experience, like a tactics type game. So I don't know. Looks pretty cool. If you're a TMNT fan, which I know there are a lot of, this could be something different. And it says it takes place in a timeline without Shredder and Splinter. So I don't know what that means or what that looks like, but I guess
it's just friends. They're just hanging out.
They're just hanging
turtles.
Out.
Yeah,
just turtles. Just trying to be turtle, living their turtle life.
They still would have been mutated, but they just wouldn't have a guide. So they would be really undisciplined, hippie turtles in the sewer chilling, and they would have no wars to fight. Oh my God, I want to see this. Wait, that sounds like a great idea.
So in the notes to this show, we had a bullet that said we were going to talk about games that we picked up during Black Friday. And one thing I was saving to discuss was a Turtles game that I absolutely adored this past week. I actually thought Travis had reviewed this one. I was wrong because all the Turtle game names blend together in my head.
Me too.
But
is it Mutant Mayhem?
It is not. I don't know what Travis reviewed, but the game that I really loved, which is a kind of Hades clone, is a game called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate.
That's it.
And I wanted to tell people about it because it's a really well done Hades type game. with a bunch of different currencies and all the stuff about repeating the game and having to beat it multiple times and getting little narrative bits when you go back to base. That if you like Turtles at all, I think they did a really good job on. So that's not this coming tactical takedown game. Splinter is in this game. Shredder is in this game. It's also not based on the 80s show, so it won't have the song.
Turtle power. Sorry,
they're the world's most fearsome fighting heroes in a half shell and the green.
it's that point. It's that point of the show where Travis goes rogue. I mean, we're at that point of the show.
I can't.
How long is it gonna go?
I don't know. I know.
I know the whole song. I sang it in my a cappella group in college. All right, let's move on.
Stop.
Anyway,
stop. We're not going there. That's
okay,
for sure.
fine.
Wait, what pun-filled name did your a cappella group have, Travis?
We don't need to talk about that. Let's move on.
All right. Okay.
Let's move on so that I don't have people Googling that and finding my a cappella group in college. All right, let's move on.
In any
Here
event,
comes the treble.
In any event, Splintered Fate is a really good Hades type game with the turtles, and I highly recommend it.
Nice. Yeah, some friends told me, I think Mutant Mayhem was the terrible Turtles game that came out months ago that Alex reviewed for us. And I like you, Hogue, there's so many, I get the names mixed up all the time. So Splinter Fate. Okay, cool. Very cool. This one is Tactical Takedown, so you got 4 T's there to deal with. Looks pretty cool. Another one in here, which probably looks more up my alley, I don't know about you guys, but it's called Deepest Fear. So this is... immersive sci-fi horror. It says it's distinct shades of Alien and The Thing again. The developers say it combines Metroidvania level design in the context of a classic FPS immersive sim. So we'll see what that looks like. I thought it looked pretty cool. I like the sound of it, of course. That's Deepest Fear. Another one that I put on here for you, Hogue, was called Blueprints. It looks a bit more colorful take on Myst. Blueprints is described as a game that combines compelling mystery, strategy, and puzzle elements to create an unpredictable journey through Mount Holly, a peculiar manor with ever-changing rooms.
I do love peculiar manners, especially if their rooms are ever-changing.
So you might want to check the show out. There are some, interesting games on there. If you didn't get a look at it this week, I don't know. From my purview, it kind of went by the wayside a little bit. So, check it out. Maybe
didn't even know what happened, Danes. I will.
There you go. But yeah, so I think talking about what's going on, kind of little news bullet points, if you will, the rest of the week. So we got the Game Awards on Thursday. We just talked about that. We'll see what announcements we get. We see what terrible decisions are made with the categories and other things. And we will conclude our bet next Sunday, of course. We'll go back through that. I wanted to call out that a Gran Turismo version PlayStation release literally called My First Gran Turismo came out.
What's funny about this game, I just saw this in the store while I was looking at things earlier today, is that the description in the PlayStation Store is whether it's your first Gran Turismo experience and you're sharing it with your family, or whether you just want to get back into it or whatever. And it's like, no, you can't name it My First Gran Turismo and then say, whether it's your first Gran Turismo or not. Is it your first Gran Turismo or not? Come on, Sony.
Yep, fair enough. So it's a free-to-play kind of slice of Gran Turismo that you can play, and check that out on PS5. So go ahead and look at that if you like. Also, Eternal Strands, if I recall correctly, Travis, was the game you did the IGN first for. That got a release date this week. It's releasing on January 28th with a new trailer as well. So looks cool.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I hope that team is doing okay. I hope their game's coming together.
Seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah, the trailer is cool.
They're going to be at the Game Awards, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. But 28th, and then also announced this week, which I think is a smart move from Warhorse Studios, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which, by the way, got an IGN first as well, a hands-on kind of in-depth overview of that game, moved to February 4th. So it moved up a week, which we've been talking about. February is already crazy with game releases. I think this is a really smart move to kind of let it get some breathing room, especially if it's ready to go. Why not release it earlier and kind of get people in that universe ahead of time? So I'm pumped about this one, man. This might be my most anticipated game. I'm really, really excited for this one.
I do think it needed a step away from Avowed, right? Your first person sword swinging RPG, I think is a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think in the end, they'll be very different games, but I think to your point, your more casual audience or people just looking to pick up one kind of RPG first person game, get that space there a little bit. So yeah, but that's about it this week, boys. Anything else you want to call out before we start to close out?
I'd like to sing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle theme song in
so.
its entirety. Okay, no. Yeah, you can read my review of Path of Exile 2.
No. Before we do the closing, was there anything else you wanted to?
No, I got nothing. I'm closing out. Closing out, dude.
He's just ready to go. He's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Well. All right. Well, hell, you've already go ahead.
Yeah. Path of Exile 2. Also, my next review is the Alien VR game. That'll be fun. I hope.
Ooh,
we'll see.
Nice.
I'm getting the code for that tomorrow. So
Travis,
what?
As our resident VR expert,
yeah,
have you played this Skydance Behemoth game for the PlayStation VR?
I have not yet. It's on my list. I own it. I've not played it yet. Have you heard good things?
I've heard good things. I've heard really good things, but I was curious.
Need to play it. Yeah, it's on my list. I believe I'm reviewing the Alien game on PSVR 2, so I may just crack that thing open today and set it up and maybe play some of that game. So we'll see. I hope to have an opinion on it soon. But yeah, that's my next review. I'll be working on that next week, and presumably we'll have a review not by next Sunday, so I probably won't be able to talk about it next week, but the week after, I'm certain. And yeah, I think that might be my last review for the year. So pretty fun year.
What'll bring that number? What will that bring your number up to this year?
I'll have to ask Alex, since he always knows and I don't. I don't know what it. I
Alex
assume
is funny that way.
Yeah, he'll be like, you reviewed 22 games. I'll be like, how do you know that? But yeah, I actually don't. I don't think it's going to be like quite as high as previous years, because I had like a wedding this year.
You did get married.
Yeah. I had like a little bit of like blind spots.
I don't believe it.
Yeah. You don't believe I got married? You were there.
No.
You
dreamed that.
You were there, bro. Like, what? Okay.
I reviewed it.
You did review it. That is true. I forgot about that. That's funny. What do you got, buddy?
Yeah, pass to Hogue. And by the way, for everyone watching, I am also, you probably see me kind of looking around and working here. So I'm trying to announce the Indy winner before we close. I'm working on that. Hogue, fill some time for me for a second.
You want to announce
Of course, that's what I'm good for.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did want to mention, as I said earlier in the show, that I don't think I've put a video directly up on my channel in a little while. Part of that is because I don't think that there are a lot of good news items to discuss in the video game space on a virtual legality basis. And from a Hangouts and Headlines or virtual legality basis, I am really disinclined to engage in kind of the culture war outrage nonsense that I see flying around so often on my social media timeline. So that's why you haven't heard from me in a little while, although I have done a couple of videos over at Last Stand Media. I did the Dragon Age Veilguard spoiler cast, which I think I mentioned last time. And then most recently, I did a Summon Sign, which is their video game conversation show with Brad Ellis and Gene Park, where we talked about, among other things, mouth washing, which you heard us refer to in this video, and Star Wars Outlaws. There was also a section on Persona 5 as against Metaphor. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, that's over at Last Stand Media. I did also mention Season Gaming over there. So we got some cross promotion.
Thank you.
I try. If I remember, I try. And then, yes, next Saturday, after the Game Awards, after Jeff Keighley has made his pronouncement from Mount Dorito or wherever it is, there will be a Two Hogues Are Better Than One episode, the one that we do every year now, where Tom and I, my game developer brother, discuss the games of the year for 2024.
Nice.
That'll be next Saturday. And as per usual, there will be oddballs on that list, especially from Tom, that you were not expecting. So please pop in. It'll be at noon Eastern next Saturday. It'll be a live show. We'll have a great conversation, and I think it'll be fun.
Love that. Love that.
Was that enough time, Ains?
That's plenty, because I do have the winner. I was making sure to get both chats and put them over here in a spreadsheet. So, and then run our random number generator. The winner is of Indiana Jones Deluxe Edition, Arctic Wolf. So Arctic Wolf, I hope that you're still watching. Otherwise, please listen to this and find me.
He's
I will try to find
watching. He just commented. So
yeah,
he's online.
Okay, perfect. Arctic Wolf. DM me on whatever social media, Twitter or Blue Sky. Just DM me, and I will get you a code, or on our Discord if you're on there. Whatever's easiest for you. Just reach out to me. I'll get you the code right after the show, so you can start playing. Thanks for everyone who tuned in and voted Indy. So happy to be able to share a code for that. On the season gaming side, yes. So Path of Exile 2 review is up. I do write in there that I have my detailed preview, right? But then I also did review outside of the end game because of what Travis and I discussed about stuff being deleted during the review period. I simply didn't get to play the end game. So it is a little more narrow review, but I think we talked about most of the points on the show here. Anyway, you can check that out. We do have a review of another little indie game called Mythwrecked, which Lewis reviewed for us. And I believe he gave that an 8 as well, maybe, but really liked it.
Friendship sim?
Yeah, it's a cozy game with the gods. Yeah.
I played a little bit of that. Cool game.
Yeah, he really liked it. Really enjoyed it. The developer actually read our review and reached out to us on Blue Sky about it and shared it out. That was really cool. So you can check that out. That's up as well. Someone asked me earlier, so I think I might have mentioned 2 weeks ago, and I just haven't had time because of the Path of Exile stuff. Someone in the community reached out to me about Veilguard Dragon Age and the character stuff having an impact on their daughter who's going through some stuff. So I have some information from them that I'm going to summarize. Obviously no names or anything, but I'm going to summarize and put into an article. I hope to do that this week. I wanted to do it last week, just time. So that should be up. And then lastly, I'm actually looking at a Halo 2. This will surprise you guys. A Halo 2 Master Chief statue collectible that I'm going to check out this week as well.
Anniversary, I assume.
Yeah, it's like an homage to the Halo 2 launch. It's a statue of him with dual SMGs kind of sliding down. It looks really cool. It's literally sitting over there. It's been sitting on the floor for a couple weeks. I just haven't gotten to it. So anyway.
And you're going to actually play some Indiana Jones, right? Like the actual game at some point.
I'm literally going to get food after the show and get back to Indy and Path of Exile 2. I literally just bounced between them. So
Indeed.
Yeah. Indeed. So, guys, chat, great to be back. You two, great to be back on the show. I miss it when we skip a week. I really love doing the show every week. So, great show. Chat, you've been awesome today. Thank you so much. Anyone checking us out on audio, of course, thank you so much. And we will be back next week with our bet of the Game Awards and hopefully some other stuff to chat about. So, until then, have a good week, everyone. Peace.